Star Trek. What did Star Trek have? Aliens? Robots? What was different about Star Trek than another space movie I'm about to talk about? They had robots and aliens, right? Lost in space. Aliens and robots. Now, then a certain other person came along, and what really set him apart? Well, I'm going to indulge you in a little bit of information here about this man, because I'm going to prove to you that he plagiarized a lot of people's work and literally even stole other people's work, and he stole from me. But I'm going to get into some other stuff right now. Go through a couple things with you real quick, like check this out. Star Wars, Yoda. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Voynich manuscript, but here's a character from the Voynich manuscript. Looks a lot like Yoda, doesn't it? Here goes Star Trek, and then Star Wars. Very similar, huh? Except for the eyes, right? Here we go again. Star Trek. Star Wars. Star Trek. Star Wars. If you think this is all coincidence, it's not. There's a little thing that I came across that said another actor in this movie, THX, had coined the phrase Wookiee. But I originally had come across that in a copy of the New York Desk Reference, which I owned one, and it had trivial facts in it, and it said it was actually from a friend of his that used to hit potholes and speed bumps and say he hit a Wookiee. So I don't know which one of those is true, but apparently one of them isn't, but the other one has to be, because that was just something I ran into online. Now, he's been doing this stuff for years. Copy of just a small section of my list of books that I was going to write and rewrite. The Rod of Iron, of course, was one that I had already written, and I lost the original in a fire. Now, I did one version of a video where I talked about this before, and when I was 7, George Lucas robbed me. He stole Jedi Knights and the Force from me. Told me he was going to make me rich and famous. He lied to me. I lived around the corner from his cousin Jack. It's all in my other videos. And this is another video I'm just popping together because I ran into that soundtrack from Gustav Holst, and someone had done a video about it and talked about how the music, he said it kind of sounded like Star Wars, but it didn't really. If you sit down and listen to this soundtrack, it was completed in 1918. It's a suite, the planet's suite, and each part of it's named after a planet. All the planets are there except Earth, of course, but it's Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury. But if you sit down and listen to it, you'll like 20 times at least while you're listening to it, you're going to say, wow, that sounds like part of Star Wars. So I really truly believe that they plagiarized parts of that Gustav Holst's planets for Star Wars. He stole Yoda from the Voynich manuscript. He stole Wookiee from another guy. He stole Jedi Knights in the Force from me. And as I showed you in the pictures, he's been plagiarizing other people's works for years. And that's only the beginning of it. He stole Jedi Knights in the Force from me in 1974. I had a very rough childhood. I forgot all about it until 1999. Well, there was something else that happened in between that happened before I ever remembered what happened in 1974. In 1988, I started writing a book called Rod of Iron. And, I was brought up kind of Christian, so this might have made Christians mad. But it was sort of a different take of Jesus if he had come back sort of like more like, powerful like a wizard or a warlock kind of thing. So I thought of debated about doing it, and I didn't want to upset any Christian people, but I just wanted a kind of a what if thing, because the Bible tells us that God is the mystery of mysteries, so nobody really knows exactly how he'll come back. So I sort of wanted to do a twist on that, and I wrote this little short book called Rod of Iron. Well, actually, I was still writing the book, and I had only partially finished it, but I wrote a short version of it and sent it to Lucasfilm. And I'll show you a copy of the letterhead I got back from Lucasfilm. The same letterhead they used way back in 89. And I got a letter back from them saying they didn't take unpublished material, but my short story wasn't in there. It was gone. And elements of and I can only swear to you that the Jesus type, the person I was making, could walk through walls like a ghost. He could fly. He could do all kinds of stuff. So he was, maybe some of y'all would associate that with witchcraft or something, but he was just a powerful being, like not like what you would typically think of Jesus. But that was the whole idea. And I wrote this short version called Rod of Iron. The next thing I know, and there was some stuff in that book, and the short version I wrote him, that were actually from a dream of mine. I saw part of it in one movie. What it came from my dream, I saw in a movie. I saw Warlock and I saw Ghost, and elements of all three, or my stories were in all three of those movies. You see, and that all coincides right after me sending them that book in the couple years that followed. So truly, I believe he stole that, and I did a video called It Gets Worse 2.0. If you get, when I first started making videos, I'm a terrible videographer. But again, I'm working on another movie, doing the original remake to tell you all the story about what happened in 1974 and up till the time I was able to start remembering what happened in 1974 and how he got Jedi Knights in the Force, and the whole story from 74 till 2001. And 2001's when he had a FBI guy come to my house. So maybe later on, I put in some FOIA requests and trying to get to see if they were listening to me, because I had a piece of evidence that came up missing, and there was nobody who knew it existed and nobody who knew where it was except for my two brothers and my mother. And I talked to them on the phone, so there's no way anybody could have known its location. And it was stored somewhere way out in the country, so it wasn't like it was just right somewhere in the city where somebody could break in. Oh, look, here's a document sleeve. There's 3 of them here. Just let me take one of them. Well, there was 3 of them sitting there, and mine was the one of them, and mine was the only one missing. My brothers were both still there. So, you know, you can't believe that someone would have just come in, took one, and not took them all. I don't get how that would make any sense, unless they knew what they were looking for, and they specifically took mine out of there because it had that piece of evidence I had, which was a piece of paper. I wrote Jedi Knights in the Force on in 1974 and drew a car, and my mother pulled it out in the year 2000. I had been in Port St. Lucie, Florida, and came back up to stay with her for a little bit, and then I went back. But before I went back, we were going through paperwork, and I pulled out my document sleeve, and I pulled that piece of paper out, and I asked her, "What is this?" And it didn't even dawn on me. So again, at this point, I still had not remembered. I didn't remember in '99 when she was telling a story about me falling on the stick, but I did remember that I didn't fall on the stick. I remember what really happened. We were in Jack Hemberger's backyard, who is George Lucas's cousin. So I still didn't remember. I looked at that piece of paper and still didn't remember. And I'm kicking myself now, because if I had realized what that piece of paper was and why it was in my document sleeve, and she made me put it back in there before she put it up. So it was there in that document sleeve. All my paperwork from when I was a kid was in my sleeve. All of it's missing. It's gone now. So I'd like to have my paperwork back. I'd like to have my documents back from when I was a kid. But I think they're too afraid. Whoever got it is too afraid that the stuff that's in there could associate back to them, because my medical records may prove the day I went to the hospital when Jack Hemberger, George Lucas's cousin, almost killed me, and they probably gave me a tetanus shot because he pointed a piece of rebar at my face. And, you know, rusty, you know, they had to give me a tetanus shot. So I had a vaccination booklet, and me and all 3 of my brothers, you know, or me and my 2 brothers, sorry, all 3 of us had one. And so all of our vaccinations were in there. It looked like a little passport book almost. They write it in, stamp, put a date, stamp, time, you know. And so that may have actually given me the date that he took Jedi Knights in the Force, because I went into his cousin's house, got on the phone with him, George Lucas, and he told me he was going to make me rich and famous. I went outside. We were playing on Jack's swing. Then he pointed the rebar at my face, almost killed me. I ended up going to the hospital. It took us about 45 minutes to get there. I sit and figured it out. And if you had backed up the phone records, if we could get phone records, I could prove George Lucas called a house right here on this Robinwood Road in Louisville, Kentucky on that very day. So there would be no way I could do that or pull that rabbit out of a hat and say, look, here's George Lucas's number, calling that house. Because he had to have called him and said, hey, go get that kid, you know, get him to tell me what about that, you know, because Jack Hemberger had heard me say Jedi Knights in the Force in my front yard. Well, you know, and then him to turn around, he stole the dream. I was having a dream when I was in my late teens, early 20s, hitting 21. I kept having the same reoccurring dream about this house in the woods and this girl, and actually put part of it in my story. Well, you ever seen the movie Cocoon 2? When she shows Jack the vision, it's my dream, except it's like completely backwards and there's a couple things missing. But it's my dream. It's the whole thing I dreamed, and that was in that story that I wrote to Lucasfilm, and they stole that too. So he steals things from people and then he gets away with it. So, you know, my warning to people who have ideas, or if you have something, do not share it with anyone. If you do share it with someone, have them sign a NDA. It's a non-disclosure agreement where that they will never share it or use it, or you could sue them. But nonetheless, George Lucas told me he was going to make me rich and famous. So he made an oral contract with me, and I was 7 years old. So I don't know how the laws pertain to that back then, but he's been lying. Then I come across a person who seen one of my videos. They said they worked for Lucasfilm. They had overheard him say that he heard it from a kid. And so now we have other people. Now, whether this person was legitimately telling the truth, and Crone 45, again, if you're legitimate, I wanted to thank you for, sending me the message, and I'm going to be definitely putting it in my next video as well. I'll put a little shot of it in here. And I'm going to run through some of the music that I heard off this Planets by Gustav Holst, and I'm going to let you hear it, and I want you to and this is only a few. It's not all of them, because you can sit and listen to that, and a lot of times when you're listening to that Gustav Holst Planet Suite, you'll feel like you're sitting in a Star Wars film, because there's a lot of stuff in there that really does sound dead like Star Wars. And like I showed you a couple that I played right here at the beginning, it's just like almost the same thing. It's like they just changed a few notes. So I'm not sure if he was convincing people to steal stuff, or just, it's like taking and making a cake, or here I got a better analogy. Like, so let's just say me and you both had a Mustang and mine was missing parts. I came over and started stealing parts off your car. And I finally got my built and said, hey, look at my nice car. It's still a criminal act. You can't take things that belong to other people, not give them credit for it, not tell the truth. Well, he told me he was going to make me rich and famous. Now, I don't even care about the money no more. I just want him to tell the truth at this point. And he probably never will. Maybe he will. I don't know. I don't think he will. I don't know. If he did, I would be shocked. Let's put it that way. Some people are so far gone, but you want to talk about Hollywood corruption? And now you start to think Lucasfilm has been stealing stuff from people for years, and I can't hardly fathom to think I'm the only one who they've been stealing from. And again, like I said, with the thing with the Wookiee, you've seen some of the characters from Star Trek and comparing them to Star Wars. So he's been, and then the Voynich manuscript, the music, you can just see for yourself. I mean, he's been taking stuff from people for years, and he gets all the credit for it, and he sort of like leaves people in the dirt, Considering at the time, when I was 7 years old, I was burned severely when I was younger, so I was still kind of semi-handicapped at the point that he robbed me. And the next year, I was in a foster home. How could you take something from a 7-year-old kid, see him go in a foster home the next year, and never ever even try to help him or do anything? Never do nothing. That's low down. No matter who any of you, I don't care who you are. If you're taking up for George Lucas, I've come across Republicans and Democrats and everybody they want to defend George Lucas, and it's like, dude, he's a criminal. He's a criminal, because until the day he tells the truth, he'll stay a criminal. And I don't know about all these other good people in Hollywood, but I've sure seen a lot of crazy stuff going on in Hollywood, and I don't know how far he is involved with all of that, but I do know that he steals from people. So the movie Big Fat Liar, that's like a cupcake story compared to what he did to me, because he's gotten me twice, and that's one of the things I've been hesitant to tell everybody, that he's robbed me twice. He stole part of the Rod of Iron, and he stole Jedi Knights in the Force, and he's never even acknowledged any of it. So corruption. Plus, he stole an actual dream, because the Rod of Iron actually had a dream of mine in it. And like I said, I just can't fathom why people don't want to do anything about it. You don't want to listen to my story. I keep telling you, I've been trying to tell the truth for 20 years. They tried to shut me up, tried to have me arrested by the Bedford police. I've never been to jail in my life. I don't make up stories about nobody. I wouldn't do that. I don't know what to tell you all. If you don't want to tell the truth, if you don't want to, I don't think you have as much of a bargain chip with God as you think you have if you can't even look at the truth and listen to me I'm telling you the truth. I wouldn't make this up about the man. I have no reason to make anything up about anybody. So he's done terrible things. I mean, you don't take from a 7-year-old kid, tell him you're gonna do something, and then watch him, watch his life turn into a disaster while you're making billions of dollars, and never even say, maybe I better help this kid out or something. Something. He could have saved. I had a terrible childhood. And these people talk like I've said in other videos. I've never seen privilege. There was times when I lived next to the projects, and me and my brothers and my mother, we went to bed without dinner. We were poorer than the kids in the projects because they always had a home. We always had we would go from house to house until we couldn't pay anymore, and they'd kick us out, or we had to go somewhere else. So we didn't have all that stuff. We had a terrible childhood, and we went from school to school. So again, they say everybody has the same opportunities. Not really. But I'm not one for equity as opposed to equality. But when it comes to equality, they should change the rules a little bit when there's people who are in a certain predicament like us, where we were able to fall through a lot of the cracks in the system and we were not helped. And there was times when we were hungry and we just barely kept our house paid for. And I had to actually quit high school and work a job and help my mother pay rent. And my mom's third husband went and bought me a pair of shoes one time because all my money was going under rent, and he went, keep a roof over our heads. So he went and bought me a pair of shoes. So, like I said, I've never had an easy life. I've worked for everything I've had my whole life, and my wife passed away on August the 26th of 2020. My dogs passed away in July and August of 2019. So I wasn't really even over my dogs because I love my dogs like my kids. And then, come 26th of August in 2020, that's a day I don't want to remember, but, horrible thing, to lose somebody you love right in front of you. But, it's just people, look, I'm going to put some stuff at the end here. I don't want this video to get too long because I still owe y'all a movie, which I'm remaking my first sci-fi revelation. And again, I have been working on it, and I have a whole list of stuff down here. And I have other equipment over there that I'm going to start putting it all together soon. So I just wanted to do this because I came across that video of that guy and him talking about, well, I don't really think it was, I don't think they used it in Star Wars. You listen to it yourself. I'll put all these songs right at the end here. You can listen to them yourself. You can't tell me that they didn't take some of this from some of the music from Star Wars from this. And then you start looking at those pictures I posted, the Yoda, the Voynich manuscript, all that stuff. George Lucas has been plagiarizing people for years. He steals from people and lies to them. A 7-year-old kid, that's the worst. That's a pathetic. If you can't straighten this out, George, you're a pathetic excuse for a person. You really are. And, like I said, I don't want your money. I don't want nothing from you except the truth. You come out and tell the truth, dude. Okay? Nobody needs anything from you. I don't need it. And I saw how you treated that guy who wanted your autograph. That was pathetic, especially after all the stuff you've done. How many people have you stolen from, and you're worried about giving somebody your autograph? Sad, dude. Sad.